What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the HnH Podcast. I am your co-host, Humzah and Rana, joined by my older brother, Huzaifah Rana. Huzaifah, it's been a little minute, but how are we doing?
I'm doing great, Humzah. Thank you for the introduction. I can't tell you how excited I am to be back here in our studios recording. It's been a couple weeks. Obviously, we've been pretty busy with some school, some work. But forget all that. We are ready to go here. I'm extremely excited and happy to be back, Humzah. We're honestly back at probably, I think one of the most exciting times, if you ask me, from a sports fan in terms of the offseason. You have NFL free agency next week. You have NHL trade deadline tomorrow of recording. And it's an overall exciting time. The playoff race is picking up. So before we get into all that stuff, Humzah, how are you doing? How has your a couple weeks been? Obviously, I have actually even seen you, and it's been a while since I've actually seen you in person. So how are you doing? And, how fired up are you ready to go here?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I'm busy with a lot of school, busy with, work and whatnot. But also, it's, we're both busy fasting during the month of Ramadan, and Ramadan Mubarak to all of our Muslim brothers and sisters that participate. How are you doing with that, by the way?
Honestly, man, I'm doing well. The timings are not that bad. We open our fasts around 5:30 p.m., closer actually kind of 6 p.m. now, and we have until roughly, what time is it today? Like 5:15 a.m. to kind of stop eating. So it's not too bad, especially with the work schedule and all that. But the summer months were pretty bad. I don't know, we were a little younger, but 10 years ago, 2016, was a different time for those eatings.
Even during quarantine, but we were lucky it was quarantine.
Yeah. So it's not that bad. It's pretty chill. We're all halfway through the month now, so it's obviously an exciting time for all of us. But Humzah, I want to ask you a question here. So we'll get right into the content here. Obviously, there has been a couple really big names around the NFL. We'll start off for our viewers. We'll start off in the NFL. And then we'll get into some NHL news later on in the episode. But Humzah, NFL free agency is starting next week. And there's been some news surfacing the last couple weeks. And for our Cowboy fans, we will start with our Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, George Pickens getting that franchise tag for a total, I think it's $27 or $28 million for 1 year under the franchise tag. I'll give it to you first. What were kind of your immediate reactions after that franchise tag, and do you anticipate us signing him long term?
At first I was happy that at least he's here, but I wish that they could have got a much longer extension, but it's not over. They can still extend him throughout this offseason and before the season starts. I'm confident that they will possibly get something done either before the season starts or they want George Pickens in Dallas. I think it's been very clear from Jerry and Steven and Shotty and the rest of the guys on the team. I think it's going to be fun having another year of Pickens and CD, and also hopefully we can get a new revamped defense that will help this team be better. I think Pickens is just he fits along this team so well. He plays really good alongside CD. He had played really good with Dak having his first year. Had a career year. His most receptions, most touchdowns, and most yards he's had since being in the NFL. He had that here at Dallas. So obviously it's fun to have. It's great to see that he's back. But I do hope and pray that they are able to get a long-term deal done in the future.
Yeah, I agree. And if you look back into our Cowboys history, Dak Prescott obviously had, I think it was 2 years on our franchise tag. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I know for sure it was one. Tony Pollard got franchise tag. DeMarcus Lawrence got franchise tag. So the franchise tag is not a normal thing for the Dallas Cowboys, and I think that they can use this opportunity to negotiate a long-term contract. And I do think George Pickens will stay in Dallas. We saw what the offense did last year with George Pickens and Dak Prescott along with CeeDee Lamb. You would be stupid to not re-sign him long term and kind of continue that offensive success. But so that's the George Pickens news. Obviously, I'm super excited to have him back for another year, Humzah. And we'll quickly touch. Do you want to talk the combine first, or do you want to touch a little bit on some big name free agents that the Cowboys and some big trade targets?
We'll do it. We'll do an order. We'll do the combine.
Okay, so
We'll do the combine.
obviously, for guys who may not know, the combine took place just about a week ago out there in Indianapolis. Humzah, what were some big names or kind of guys that kind of stood out for you in the combine, and where you can potentially see them, falling in the draft based on their performance in the combine?
Man, I think probably the biggest riser from this entire from this entire combine is linebacker Sonny Styles out of Ohio State. Dude, this guy
He's a monster.
He's unbelievable. They were comparing him to Calvin Johnson. Like, that's just how crazy his combine went. He's 6'5". He ran a 4.46. He had a 43.2 or a 42.5 standing vert. He broke the record for the broad jump for linebackers. The other drills he did, he just looked super, like, he doesn't look human. Like, for a guy his size and for a guy his weight, he should not be moving the way he's doing. So I think, that's probably solidified him, especially, with the Giants releasing Bobby Okereke. I can definitely see Sonny Styles going into the top 5, top 7. I don't think he makes it past the top 7 picks. There's no way.
Yeah, and so this might be a little preview to our mock draft. And for our viewers, we will have a mock draft episode, not next week because it's NFL free agency, but the following week we will do our third mock draft based on kind of what teams did in free agency and also the results off the combine. But Humzah, I don't know if it's too much of a stretch to say that I believe there will be... actually, hold up. Maybe about Caleb Downs and his... obviously, you heard about his ACL or MCL. There's some concern that, he may fall. But what I'm about to say is I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that there will be 4 Ohio State players taken in the top 5 picks. You have Fernando Mendoza going number 1 to the Raiders. And then I think anywhere from Arvell Reese, Carnell Tate, Caleb Downs, and Sonny Styles. Maybe Carnell Tate can fall off that top 5. But these are legit players from Ohio State that are going to make an immediate impact for their respective teams. And in our first mock draft, who do we have going to Dallas at 12? It was Sonny Styles. And I don't know, based on his performance in the combine, if we're going to have the luxury to be able to draft him. But there's some guys who I want to touch on now who are kind of making their way down in terms of, there were potential late first-round picks who I think we can start to talk about at number 12. And the player I want to talk about is Dylan Thieneman, the safety out of Oregon. And I don't think we even had him in our first round. We may have had him in our first round in the first mock draft, or definitely the second one, I believe so. But this is a guy who, his combine was unbelievable. He's kind of that hybrid safety that kind of blankets the whole side of the field. And, if Caleb Down goes before 12, and you obviously know safety is a big need for the Dallas Cowboys, I think that is a phenomenal pick there at number 12. Even better at pick 20. But I think it's a guy that the Dallas Cowboys and other teams in the NFL are going to start to keep tabs on, and that's Dylan Thieneman, safety from Oregon. He's kind of the guy that stood out for me.
Yeah, bro. He ran like a 4.35 or 4.34 as a safety. Man, there was a stat that this is the fastest draft, or the most athletic draft we've ever seen. Everyone in the combine was crazy. Yeah, Dylan Thieneman would be great. He's a hybrid guy. He can play, down at the nickel. He can play back up top at safety. It's someone that really does fit the Christian Parker scheme and what he's looking for. But another name I want to bring up is... Sorry, just give me a second. I just want to pull up his combine stats really quickly.
He's an offensive player or defensive player?
It's another defensive guy, sorry. Oh my god, why can't I find him? Sorry. Yeah, sorry. David Bailey. There you go, there's his stats. David Bailey. Dude, this guy, I think he's the second best player in this draft. I think David Bailey will go number 2 overall.
Okay.
That's my prediction. I mean, dude, as the edge rusher, this guy ran a 4.5. He had a 1.62. He had a 1 second and like 1.62 second split, 10-yard split. And he had a 35-inch vert. And this guy in the drills was like unbelievable. I think David Bailey is the best edge rusher in this class. I also think someone that dropped a little bit, and again they still have a pro day to show what they can do, is Ruben Bain. I think Ruben Bain is gonna fall a little bit. I think there could be a small chance that he falls to 12, but I think he's gonna be maybe the 10th pick or maybe the 11th pick, or I don't think maybe the 9th pick. I don't know, who knows? I think he's definitely gonna fall in between there, but I think again this is a really steep class edge rusher. So, and again, everyone just went crazy at the combine. So yeah, it's been unbelievable.
Yeah, and then you mentioned edge rusher Humzah, and that's gonna a beautiful transition to our second segment here about some big name NFL news. Big name NFL players kind of taking over the NFL news. And Humzah, we'll start from the Dallas perspective, and for our viewers, I apologize, but obviously we're going to talk about our Cowboys. We will talk about other teams in a moment, but there's a defensive end. He's an edge rusher. He plays for the Las Vegas Raiders. He goes by the name of Maxx Crosby, and there have been some rumors, some rumblings going around that the Raiders could be willing to move on from him. And we've heard from Dallas last couple of weeks. Dallas has been kind of moving a little differently in terms of how they're talking, and I know they always talk a big game and have never actually kind of done it. Last year they did it to an extent, but it wasn't kind of the top level players. But just this year, without even free agency coming into play, we've heard guys like Reed Blankenship, Nakobe Dean being potential guys because of Christian Parker on this defense. But Maxx Crosby, Humzah, that is an exciting name to think about if you're Dallas, and you can really, really capitalize on this Micah Parsons trade if you can go out there and trade for a guy like Maxx Crosby. Now, just a few moments ago, or I could say a couple hours ago, it was reported that the Dallas Cowboys are not willing to move their 2 first-round picks for Maxx Crosby, and I agree with that. I would not try to trade pick 12 or pick 20. Maybe pick 20, but definitely not pick 12. I think the value you're going to get, the value that you're going to get at 12, is going to be better than an immediate impact of Maxx Crosby, but I think pick 20 is definitely in play. How exciting does that sound for you in terms of Maxx Crosby potentially being a fit for Dallas, and what that can look like with the Christian Parker-led defense?
I think if any team gets Maxx Crosby, they'll be a difference maker. I think just in terms of Dallas, you already have Quinnen. You already have Kenny at your nose, and you already going to have Osa. Again, so they're running a 3-4. So you're going to have 3 defensive linemen in the front. You're going to have 2 outside linebackers, so that would be, one of them would be Maxx Crosby. And then the other outside linebacker would be like Donovan Ezaraku or Jadeveon Clowney if you re-sign him. I think there's too much to handle on that defensive line where it would literally be impossible to double team any of them. And it's just going to open up spaces and holes for everyone on that defensive line, and quarterbacks will have to get the ball out in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
It'd be very hard for teams to try to stop that. And if Dallas does get Maxx Crosby, which I don't mind giving the 20th overall pick, but I don't want to give up both the 20th and the 12th. I think an ideal trade would be pick 20 and maybe a 4th round pick this year and Osa Odigizua.
Yeah, I don't even want to be a roster player. Like, I'm doing pick 20. I'm doing a 2nd or 3rd round pick in next year's draft, and that's it. And maybe a 5th. You go 20, next year's 2nd, and a 5th for Maxx Crosby. It's a good trade. He's 28 years old.
I would at least give him our 4th this year.
Yeah, I still think there's value in this year's. Well, obviously next year's draft's going to be great as well. So it'll be. So I have a question for you, and I've seen people online talk about this from a Dallas Cowboys perspective. How many new starters do you think we're going to have on defense this year that were not on the team last year? Don't tell me the player names, but a number 4, 5, 6, 7. How many?
Did that include rookies too?
Yeah. So guys who have not played for the Dallas Cowboys yet.
I think 5.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's honestly 5 to 6.
I think another outside linebacker now. Maybe we're not going to call them edge rushers. We're going to call them outside linebackers. I think
So
a
an
safety.
outside linebacker.
I think two safeties, free safety, and
Okay, so
strong
we'll
safety.
do your and then I'll do mine.
Okay. Yeah, free safety and strong safety. I think nickel, and I think linebacker.
Inside linebacker, yeah. So I think outside linebacker / edge is the same thing. We'll do that. That's 1. I think inside linebacker 2. I think safety 3. I think corner 4. I think nickel 5. I'm separating nickel and corner. So 5. And I do agree. I think another free safety. So I have 6. 6 new defensive starters for Dallas Cowboys, and Maxx Crosby could be one of them, along with guys like Njoku, Dean, and we'll get into our free agency predictions in a moment for other teams as well, because this is obviously an exciting time for NFL fans this offseason, where you can kind of predict and kind of guess where these players are going to go, and one of them being a guy like Trey Hendrickson, Humzah, who did not get extended or franchise tagged by the Cincinnati Bengals. He will now be a free agent going into next week. That's a big name to keep an eye on, and a name that I think Dallas should definitely kind of look at, but definitely not, obviously explore Maxx Crosby first.
Let's. I wanna talk about before we do. I want to give me like a potential 3 candidates. I know we did it last time. I said a Blankenship, whatever. But give me this like right now, on the top of your head. Give me 3 free agents that you see becoming a Dallas Cowboy.
Okay, so I think I think the writing's already on the wall. I think Njoku Dean 100% is going to be a Dallas Cowboy. There's been interest there from both sides. Christian Parker and him have a great relationship. So I'm going to say 100% Njoku Dean. Are we doing free agents or are we doing trades as well?
Let's just do free agent.
Okay, so Njoku Dean, number 1. Number 2, I think a guy like Quay Walker, outside linebacker, kind of play that edge position similar to what he did in Green Bay. I think that's number 2. And I'm talking about a stud DB or a safety. There's been talks about Alontae Taylor, former New Orleans Saint, Tariq Woolen from the Seattle Seahawks. I'm trying to think who else is a nice safety here. I don't have my list in front of me. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go safety. Kyle. Yeah, it's actually right here. I think a guy like Jalen Thompson for the Arizona Cardinals. $12 million cap hit. Even Kevin Byard. Like, I know he's a little older guy, but these are veteran players who can help.
He led the league last year in picks, so.
Yeah, so those are my guys. So I'm going to go Quay Walker, Njoku Dean, and we'll go Jalen Thompson.
Okay, it's not bad. I'm gonna stick with your. I'm gonna stick with one of yours. I'm gonna go Njoku Dean. I think he's been so heavily, what's the word? He's so been heavily pictured, to be with Dallas, and he honestly when he came back from his injury last season, he was just great, man. He was one of the better linebackers on that team. He kind of outplayed the rookie Jihad Campbell, and I think Njoku Dean, he just wants to get paid, and I think Philadelphia knew when they were drafting Jihad Campbell that they probably weren't gonna extend Dean. So Dean's gonna get his money, whether that be in Dallas, whether that be elsewhere. So I think Njoku Dean's one of them. I'm gonna go with Alontae Taylor. You already mentioned him before, the nickel cornerback for the Saints. He's been playing. He had a really good season last year. The season before that, he kind of fell off. I remember he absolutely destroyed CD in the end zone in that one play. So that's one of them. And my last free agent name, he's actually not a free agent though. If Maxx Crosby's not in the cards, someone that I genuinely think could be very realistic. I think there's 3 teams that would heavily pursue this guy. In Dallas did say that they're going to be looking at the top of the market of the edge rushers in this free agency. Who better than Trey Hendrickson? I think he only played 7 games last year. He's been dealing with injuries and some personal things, but when he was playing, he was making impactful plays after impactful plays. The season before that, he led the league in sacks. So I think getting a guy like Trey Hendrickson, I understand he's not as good as Maxx Crosby, but I think looking in hindsight, he won't be getting paid as much as Max. We won't be having to give up as much draft capital for Max. We still have our pick 20, we still have our pick 12. I think you get a guy like Trey Hendrickson. I don't think you need to pay him about $30 million because he fell off. You can pay him about like $25 to $28 million for about 2 years. I think that's something that you can do. I think Trey Hendrickson will be. He's either going to be an Indianapolis Colt or he's going to be a Dallas Cowboy. That's my prediction.
No, I agree 100%. And we'll move on from the Cowboys because I know a lot of our viewers are also fans of other teams as well. So staying into this free agency topic and for our viewers and people listening, next week, Humzah and I, we're actually planning to do a live stream on YouTube during maybe the last hour or 2 hours of free agency frenzy to kind of talk with you guys live. So please tune into that. We will have more information and more updates on our Instagram regarding that, but I'm looking forward to that if we can make that happen on YouTube. But Humzah, there's obviously some other big name free agency players, and next week these guys will obviously have new homes. So let me hear some of your top. Give me your, I'll let you kind of drive it however way you want to, but give me some of your big name free agents and kind of the best fits for them. Why don't we stick with the offensive side of the ball first? And then
do you want to do it to where I'll say the free agent and then you say the team fit? And then we'll just go back and forth like that.
Sure, whatever you want, yeah.
Okay, so my first one, I think probably one of the bigger names in this year's free agency. Surprised that they could not get a deal done. But I'm going to go with Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker.
Yes, that's a phenomenal start to this episode, yeah.
Where do you... I'll say my team after you say yours, but where do you think a guy like Kenneth Walker can go where he can be the main leading running back? And where do you think?
First of all, the fact that Seattle could not come to terms with an agreement with Kenneth Walker is a little shocking to me. But they've been known to kind of draft running backs within the top 100 picks all the time. But considering Charbonnet was injured and Kenneth Walker was the guy, he's still a phenomenal running back at decent. He's still young, right? How old is he? Like 20?
He's 26, maybe.
Yeah, like that's still extremely young in terms of running back years. So we're talking about also Super Bowl MVP. So in terms
he's 25.
25 years old. Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. So a new home for him. I think he's going to want to go to a team that's going to be able to compete and play at a high level. And we obviously had a running back mock to go to this team a couple weeks ago in Jeremiah Love and the Kansas City Chiefs. But if the Chiefs can make it work, they can go out there and they can get a guy like Kenneth Walker. I think the Chiefs are immediately back into that Super Bowl conversation, as we all know, and expect them to be with obviously Patrick Mahomes and that team. And I don't remember the last time, maybe Kareem Hunt in his prime, but there's been a while since we've had a bona fide number one running back in Kansas City. And if you can go out there and sign a guy like Kenneth Walker, I think Kansas City Chiefs have put themselves atop that AFC conversation, and that's just a great fit for him. So Kenneth Walker, I think, is a great fit for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, that's one. The team that I was thinking about for K9, which I hate to say the team, but I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders.
Okay.
I think Washington does need a running back. I think Bill Cross-Camara isn't really the, solidified, every down back. I think Washington will be more active in free agency this year. I think that, they're letting go of Deebo Samuel because he's also a free agent. As much as it pains me, I think K9 would honestly be a great fit for Washington. A team that, you just can't rule out. I think it just makes sense. Jaden Daniels, I think he does really well if he has a, solidified running back. That O-line is going to continue to get better. And I think if he wants to get a bag, he's looking for $16 million a year. I think Washington could be a option for sure.
Man, just looking at these names right now, dude. I'm extremely excited for next week. It's gonna be an exciting time to see where all these players go. Humzah, a big name guy I want to talk about now. Marshawn Lattimore. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Everyone obviously knows what George Pickens did to him. We'll go here. We'll go. Actually, I'll go to the offensive side of the ball. Stick with that. Humzah, what are your thoughts on a guy like Mike Evans, who's going to be a free agent this summer? Does he try to find his way back in Tampa Bay, or does he find a new home?
No idea. I think Tampa will try to get him back. But if he does leave, I think it's just going to be a 1 season loan, pretty much. And a team that I'm thinking about. Actually, no, I'm not even going to say that team because they already got DJ Moore. But
oh yeah,
Mike
by the way,
Evans.
breaking news. As Humzah mentioned, sorry, DJ Moore traded to the Buffalo Bills. I think in exchange for. Do you have the trade up right now or no?
It was a 2nd round pick and a 5th round pick.
Okay, so as Humzah mentioned, a 2nd round pick and a 5th round pick. So DJ Moore is in Buffalo, and Josh Allen has his number 1 wide receiver there. So interesting trade for both parties. But sorry, we'll go back to Mike Evans. Where do you think he can go?
Yeah, I think if we just want to do a 1-year loan with Mike Evans, I'm looking at a team in the AFC North. Looking at someone that could just be a reliable, big target guy, especially for this quarterback. I'm going to go the Baltimore Ravens. I think Mike Evans, again, Baltimore loves getting the old wide receivers. But I think getting a guy like Mike Evans, pair him up with Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, and maybe I think they're also looking for another receiver in this class. I think getting a guy like Mike Evans will just, again, I think any team getting Mike Evans will help, but I think specifically for the Ravens, it would be pretty impactful for that offense. And just having a big guy who's a deep threat, I think it's always a good option to have, especially for a guy like Lamar Jackson who just extends plays like crazy. I think the Ravens are the team that comes to mind.
Yeah, for me, I'm actually good. We just mentioned the team a couple minutes ago. I think a team like, if he doesn't go back to the Buccaneers, which I do think there's a higher chance he goes back than finds somewhere else, but for the sake of the podcast, we'll act like he's going somewhere else. I think a team like the Chicago Bears can use someone like Mike Evans. You just traded away a receiver. You already have Luther Burden and Ruma Donze. Why not go out there and get a veteran jump ball phenom like Mike Evans, who can be that kind of red zone threat for a guy like Caleb Williams. So I think it's a good option for the Chicago Bears, who just traded away DJ Moore, as we just mentioned. And also, Mike Evans is a tall, lanky wide receiver, and I don't think I know that the Bears don't really have that option. And another option could be a team like the Green Bay Packers, who aren't really that active in free agency, but there's been rumors that, what's his name there?
Romeo or Christian Watson?
No, Romeo. That he may not be going back, or there's some sort of issues with them. So him and Matthew Golden could be a good combo in Green Bay.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, I have this. We're gonna stick again. We're gonna stick to the offense here. This might be our last offensive one, but here's I would say he was a big name maybe last year, a couple of years ago. Still can be very valuable to a lot of teams. Where do you think tight end David Njoku? Where do you think the best team fit for him will be?
So I think it all depends, and I don't want to pick the same team twice in the same segment, because I think Kansas City would be a great option for him if Travis Kelce is to move on. But a team similar with a really good quarterback is what I'm thinking. A team that's looking to make a big impact, and I think the team that comes to mind is a team maybe like the Los Angeles Chargers with Mike McDaniel.
Mike McDaniels.
Mike McDaniel is now the offensive coordinator there, and Justin Herbert can have a nice, fast, vertical tight end to go along with his receivers and Ladd McConkey. So, just the top of my head, I think the Chargers could be a great fit for him.
Dude, we forgot about one big offensive name. If you're thinking about who I'm thinking about. Quickly just for Njoku, I'm thinking a team like the Dolphins. I don't remember the last time the Dolphins have had a good tight end. I think either they can draft one. I think whoever their quarterback is, I think that's where they're but I think Miami would be a good fit for David Njoku. Damn, there's two quarterbacks I want to talk about, but I'm just gonna
Yeah,
pick.
I was gonna say there's a quarterback I want to talk about as well. So you go first.
I hope you don't pick the same one.
You go.
Okay. Just recently released a couple days ago, Kyler Murray. He's a free agent. What team do you think a guy like Kyler Murray could play on? Is he gonna be on a team where he would start, or is he gonna be a team where he could just be a bridge guy?
Well, that's a good question because I was just going to ask you, like, for a guy like Kyler Murray, is he in a position where he's going to be fighting for a starting position, or do we see something similar to happen with Sam Darnold when he went to the San Francisco 49ers and, Baker Mayfield when he went to the Rams and the Carolina Panthers? So Kyler Murray, I don't know why there's been rumors that the Minnesota Vikings are a team that could be interested in him. Obviously, they don't have that much faith in J.J. McCarthy, so I think Minnesota can make a lot of sense. I'm trying to think of another team here, just at the top of my head. If he is to be a starter, I think 100% you can make an argument that he can find a home in Miami with the Dolphins. A new system there, a new fresh start, and Tua has been an okay quarterback, but I think maybe that might be a lateral move for Miami fans, and they might not be too happy with that. So those could be an options, but I think I've said two teams, and forgive me, but I think this team for sure can be a legitimate contender for a guy like Kyler Murray and other quarterbacks who we may mention. Is a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are in dire need of a quarterback right now with Aaron Rodgers obviously not returning. You obviously have Will Howard in the system, and it just kind of depends. Does Mike McCarthy, trust him, or do you go out there and sign a guy like Kyler Murray and kind of have that compete in training camp? So I think Pittsburgh is a great fit for a guy like Kyler Murray.
Yeah, it's a good one. I think for me, even though I don't think he'll be there, I think a team possibly like the Jets.
Okay.
I don't know why I was slurring there. Sorry about that. But the Jets, for sure. I think the Jets could definitely be a team, especially when, Dante Moore didn't declare. They don't have the first overall pick. We already know where Mendoza's going to go. Maybe get a bridge guy like Kyler Murray and maybe draft a guy like Ty Simpson and have Ty Simpson be under him for like a year or a bit. I think that's definitely one. I think the Jets are an option for sure.
And another quarterback comes up for you. We'll kick it back to you. Is a guy like Malik Willis, who obviously had a great year, end of the year with Green Bay Packers, a former first-round pick by the Tennessee Titans. Which team do you kind of see he can be playing for? And obviously this might be a little bit of a different situation than Kyler Murray because Malik Willis is significantly younger, and I think he can truly be a starting quarterback for an NFL team.
So, when I first thought about Malik Willis, I think I was always gonna say the Dolphins. The Dolphins were a team, but now that this team is in need of a quarterback, I think it also kind of does fit their scheme a little bit because Kyler Murray was a quarterback previously. I think Malik Willis in Arizona with Maserati Marv, and I have a good feeling that maybe Jeremiah Love, maybe potential spoiler alert for our mock draft, could be their guy. I think Arizona has ability to create cap space. I think they already have a bunch of cap space right now. I think giving Malik Willis an opportunity with that offense, and dude, I was watching film literally yesterday with Malik Willis and with the chances that he had with Green Bay last year. This guy was balling out, man. Malik Willis was balling out, and
he's really good.
He was very good, and I think.
You don't think they draft a quarterback? Or do you think Arizona does? I think they can draft a guy like Drew. I think they can get a guy like Drew Aller.
They could, but then you'll just compete. It'll be Drew Aller, Malik Willis competing for a spot. It'll probably be Malik Willis for now, or maybe they go get Nesmire. Like, I don't know, but I think Malik Willis with Arizona for sure. I think he can definitely help that offense for sure. I think the offense has been horrible for years, and I just think what's the coach name? LaFleur.
Yeah, Matt LaFleur.
Is it Matt or Mike?
Matt. I think Mike's his brother.
Mike's the Green Bay one, right?
Matt's the Green Bay one.
Okay, so Mike is the current one, the one I'm talking about?
I think so.
No, okay. So Mike LaFleur, the offensive, he was a quarterback coach for the OC for the Rams. So I think they could definitely, draw something up. And
He's a head coach. That's good for him.
I think Cardinals for Malik Willis for me.
Okay, my hot take of the episode. I think a guy like Malik Willis would do wonders in terms of a competing perspective and an opportunity to be a starting quarterback for this franchise who has been looking for their quarterback for a long time. And I know you're a big fan of this quarterback. He got drafted last year. I know their fan base is high on him, but I think he deserves, or there should be an opportunity for there to be some compete. Because I don't know if I have 100% faith in this guy to be the starting quarterback for this team. And I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns. I think if the Cleveland Browns can spend some money on a guy like Malik Willis and have that opportunity to compete, he can be a starting quarterback for that team, and it may be just what the team needs. If you look at other teams, you mentioned Miami, that could be an option too with Tua. You obviously highlighted Arizona, which I think is the number one destination for a guy like him. But I think an opportunity for him in Miami, Cleveland could be something that could work well for both teams. Both parties, Malik Willis and Cleveland. So that is my prediction there.
Do you not think Shedeur is the guy?
We can have this conversation on a different day, but I do not. Personally, it was 1 year, so maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh, and he did have an okay year at the end of the year, but I think there's still more that I want to see from him, and I think Malik Willis can bring that. Maybe Shedeur is your guy. You go out there, you sign a guy like Malik Willis, and can create that competition in training camp, which will be interesting to see what happens there. Do you want to do one defensive player each, and then we move on to our world sports segment where we highlight some news around the other major sports in the world?
Sure, I'll bring up a defensive name. It was one I was looking at earlier. Just need to.
Well, I have one right here.
Okay, go ahead.
We've talked about him before. He's a linebacker, Quincy Williams, former linebacker, free agent now, but he was with the New York Jets. Do you see a home for him anywhere that would make sense for a game? Because he's a phenomenal linebacker. He's fast, physical, plug in the hole. So, where do you see
earlier a couple weeks ago, I would say Dallas, but I haven't heard anything with him being linked to Dallas. I've heard a lot of Devin Lloyd. Oh my God, that's another name. I've heard a lot of.
He's really good.
I've heard a lot of Devin Lloyd. I've heard a lot of Nakobe Dean has been the name I've heard the most. I've heard a little bit of Quay Walker for Dallas. I haven't really heard much of Quincy Williams, but if I'm just going to a team that could use a vet linebacker, I'm looking at the Colts. I think the Colts can use a guy like Quincy Williams, just a guy who could just be a veteran for that defense. And Colts usually always have a good defense. I think placing a guy like Quincy Williams wouldn't be hard to do. So I think Quincy Williams for the Colts for me.
All right. Do you have another one? I have an interesting question or point I want to make here.
Sure, you can ask one. But I do have one.
Okay, go.
I'm gonna go with a guy who got traded in earlier in the season. I'm gonna go with Jalen Phillips, edge rusher out of Philly. Is he going to go back to Philly, or what other teams do you think?
This actually relates to my question that I had for you. Jalen Phillips is an interesting name to keep an eye on. I think maybe a team like the Minnesota Vikings can use a guy like him because they're talking about Jonathan Grenard, who's a defensive edge player for them. He's in trade conversation. They just released Jonathan Allen just a few hours ago. So they're in need of some help on the defensive side of the ball, and they drafted Dallas Turner, who's a linebacker a couple years ago. But if you want to talk about youth and a guy that can make an impact right away, I think Jalen Phillips would be great in that Brian Flores defense. Who, with my understanding, Brian Flores actually was in Miami when Jalen Phillips was a draft pick for them, and so there's some familiarity there. So I can definitely see Jalen Phillips being a Minnesota Viking.
Yeah, I think that's a good fit. I'm thinking also in that division, Detroit.
Yeah, alongside.
Pair him alongside Aiden Hutchinson. That'd be nasty.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I got a question. I have a statement to make. We've made some predictions before in this podcast, and we've been always right, Humzah, every single time. Every single prediction we have made has come true. You can check that. I'm making a statement. I am saying that either this is going to happen. I think this is going to happen. Either Trey Hendrickson's going to be a Dallas Cowboy. Sorry, Trey Hendrickson's going to be a Philadelphia Eagle, and Maxx Crosby is going to be a Dallas Cowboy. I think that's going to happen. I think if Maxx Crosby gets traded to Dallas in the next coming days, the Eagles are going to want to compete. Trey Hendrickson's a free agent. I can definitely see Trey Hendrickson becoming a Philadelphia Eagle. Such a Philadelphia Eagle move to make. They're obviously going to not have Nakobe Dean. They're not going to have maybe Reed Blankenship. That's going to free up some cap space for them. I think Trey Hendrickson can be a Philadelphia Eagle, and I think Maxx Crosby is going to be a Dallas Cowboy. That's my prediction for you. And do not be shocked when it happens, because I know you see the vision. I know you see that.
Yeah, it's a very Philly move. If Philly's gonna see that Dallas did this, so they're gonna go
100%.
Do
100%.
that.
Or vice versa. If the Maxx Crosby stuff waits a little bit, Trey Hendrickson signs in Philly, I think Dallas is gonna have to match that. Because at the end of the day, that's the team you're chasing in the NFC East.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was gonna say something else, but we want to get into our other segment.
Yeah. So we'll get into our world sports segment here, and obviously. We'll touch on this for a little bit now. We might go a little bit over time today, but I want to talk about NHL trade deadline and our Ottawa Senators and some kind of big-time names on the free agency market. There's been some big-time moves coming in the last couple of days with Tyler Myers. Tyler Myers, not a big-time name, but a nice defenseman going to the Dallas Stars. But I want to talk quickly about our Ottawa Senators, because I know a lot of our fans, a lot of people watch.
I got trolled yesterday.
A lot of people watching know that I'm a big Sens fan, and they've been asking for Sens content here on this podcast a lot. So this is directly targeted and for those viewers to my Sens fans. I want to make a quick statement before I get into some trade deadline talk. I want to address this to the Sens fans who are saying we have to trade Brady Tkachuk. Okay, I want to speak to these people individually. Okay. Because that is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard in my entire life, okay? I'm actually putting my leg up right now because I want to get into this for a little bit. Sens fans are claiming or stating that they want to trade a guy like Brady Tkachuk, okay? And I'm here to say on this podcast that no matter what you tell me, no matter which way you put it, if you trade Brady Tkachuk, the Ottawa Senators are never going to win that trade. Okay, the Ottawa Senators will never win a Brady Tkachuk trade. We have already seen what happens when one team trades a Tkachuk to another team. Okay, a few years ago, the Calgary Flames traded Matthew Tkachuk to the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers ended up being 2-time Stanley Cup champions, and the Calgary Flames have been in a rebuild for the last 4 years. Brady Tkachuk and Matthew Tkachuk, I'm talking about Brady in specifically. They are such unique players, Humzah. They are unicorn-level players who can get 5 to 8 hits a game, who average 30-plus goals a season, who can average anywhere between that 60, 70-point range. Brady maybe a little bit lower than that. You cannot go out there and trade a guy with that kind of value who has also done so much for the city of Ottawa, who has done so much for the community, who has put kind of this team on his back for the last couple of years. He fights in every single shift. Like, you can never trade a guy like that. And there's been people saying online, there's been two things. People have been saying, oh, I want to see Brady punch a guy and play with passion and start fighting guys and all that stuff. Well, if I can remember correctly, a few years ago, those same fans were upset that Brady was spending half of the period in the penalty box when the Sens were down by 2 and he would get a penalty. Those are the same fans that want Brady to go out there and fight someone at the end of the game. Choose a side. Pick a side, Sens fans, okay? You guys, a lot of these Sens fans are complaining about the whole America Olympic gold medal thing. Look, as a proud Canadian, I was public enemy number 1 for Brady Tkachuk in the Olympics, okay? Maybe on an individual level, I wanted him to do well, but it's Canada over it's Canada over USA 100%, okay? But the moment that tournament was finished, I was heartbroken. I was pissed off that Canada lost. It took me a couple days to recover. But I fully focused on now him being an Ottawa Senator and what he's going to do to be a member of the Ottawa Senators and what he's going to do for us to be making the playoffs. And for some Sens fans to say, oh, go out there and trade him. He's an American. He doesn't want to be here. That's, there's a certain level that pisses me off, and that's one of them, okay? He's always said he wants to be in Ottawa. And down the road, if something happens where he's traded, albeit. But to think that he doesn't want to be in Ottawa is absolutely insane to me. And people keep telling me, oh, well, we traded Erik Karlsson. Huzaifah, Erik Karlsson got traded, so Brady can get traded too. There's a significant difference in the Erik Karlsson trade and the Brady Tkachuk trade. Erik Karlsson got traded in the middle of a rebuild in Ottawa where we know where management was an issue and that those two sides were never going to agree. Mark Stone was already dealt prior to that. You knew that was never going to align. Okay, actually, no, Mark Stone got dealt after, apologies. But you knew that those guys in that regime were going to be dealt. It was a completely different timeline. And you got a haul for Erik Karlsson and ended up getting Josh Norris and Tim Stützle. So thank you, San Jose. Okay? But to think that Brady Tkachuk is going to get traded and people wanting him to be out of town, it's blasphemy. It's unbelievable because just 9 months ago, the Brady chants were roaring in the CTC. People were energetic, hyped for him. They're pissed off at him for one off year, but don't remember that he missed 25 games with an injury. He can't fight. He's still a point per game player. He's still playing with passion. So forgive me for going on this extremely high rant, Humzah, but I cannot believe that Sens fans sit down here and actually want to trade Brady Tkachuk because they think it's going to benefit our team and they think it's going to help the Ottawa Senators make the playoffs. It's unbelievable how wrong they are. And Brady Tkachuk wants to be here. You can never trade a guy like that. Okay. Moving on. I had to get that off my chest. Okay. Moving on. Trade deadline is 24 hours away from recording. There's been rumor that a guy like Robert Thomas is going to be interested in coming. Not interested, but the Ottawa has kind of seek interest in Robert Thomas. That can be an interesting name. Do you want to go out there? We don't have a first round pick. What would be of interest? I think a guy like Yakimchuk or Logan Henser. What's up?
There's somewhat breaking news. The 49ers have hired former Cowboys DC Matt Eberflus as their assistant head coach of defense.
Wow. Breaking news.
There's also some Cowboys news I want to break. You muted yourself.
I see the Cowboys news that you're about to break, but we'll get to that in a second. But just want to quickly finish off my hockey topic. So NHL trade deadline is fast approaching, and I look forward to kind of seeing what the Sens do. Do guys like Nick Jensen, are they on the move?
I definitely think either Zetterlund or Nick Jensen will not be a Ottawa Senator before the deadline or after the deadline.
You think that? Yeah, I think that's a possibility, right? I think Zetterlund was brought into Ottawa to be a pure goal scorer, and I'm a big Zetterlund fan, and he was given the opportunity many times to play in that top six, and just hasn't been able to find kind of that rhythm that I think Sens fans and management has kind of wanted. So he can be a guy I see moving. I think a guy like Warren Fogle from the LA Kings is an interesting name, a bottom six player who has playoff experience, and he can be a guy coming back our way for a guy like Fabian Zetterlund. Nick Jensen on an expiring deal is another guy that I think could be traded as well. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, the big name is Robert Thomas from St. Louis. If it makes sense, I would definitely pull the trigger on that because he has term. I think Sens fans are all about trying to keep Yakimchuk, but I think if it makes sense for both parties, you can toss in Yakimchuk, toss in maybe Stephen Halliday and a pick for a guy like Robert.
Tell me Ottawa couldn't give 3 second-round picks for Mackenzie Weegar?
Yeah, Mackenzie Weegar. Yeah, Humzah mentions there. Mackenzie Weegar traded to Utah yesterday. So that was an interesting play. Ottawa could have done that, but I don't know. I think, there's something happening, and we'll have to figure out what that is, and when we'll find out tomorrow. But it's a big-time opportunities for a lot of players to get traded here, and for Ottawa Senators, I think for Sens fans, it's important that we try to stay as optimistic as possible. 20-something games left, 6 points out. I think if Steve Staios makes the deal at this deadline, and we do go out there and get a guy like Robert Thomas or someone else, we can potentially go on a run here. And if it doesn't work out this year, well, a guy like Thomas has term. And before I kick it to you, Humzah, just want to make this clear here with my Brady Tkachuk talk. He can never be traded. He can't be traded. In my opinion, I think it's an idiotic decision. But I also think that a guy like Ridley Gregg can also not be traded for the value that he brings to the team and his grit. So that was a lot in a short amount of time. So I apologize for that. But what is your breaking news from the Dallas Cowboys?
So nothing really happened. Like, there's not a trade that happened. But last night, Cowboys were close to a deal with the Raiders for DN Maxx Crosby. But since other teams raised their bargain, some even offering 2 first-round picks, the Cowboys are no longer entertaining it. Now, the Cowboys will shift their focus on DN Trey Hendrickson. And this is a report from, I think he's a Cowboys insider, Trey Wingo. Or he's an insider. Yeah. He said last night things are moving fast for DN Maxx Crosby. Last night, Dallas thought they were close to a deal. But since other teams raised their ante and potentially offering 2 first-round picks, expected Dallas to now shift their focus to Trey Hendrickson.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So, okay, we'll have to definitely monitor that situation as we continue to go here into NFL free agency next week. I see another Dallas was super close to closing on a deal with Maxx Crosby. So, the rumors are true, and what we've kind of talked about is true. So,
Trey Hendrickson to Dallas and Maxx Crosby to Philly.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That would be an interesting topic. So, before Humzah closes this out, and I apologize, we went a little bit longer than we wanted to, but that's what happens when you miss a couple weeks, and we will be back next week. Like I mentioned before, we're keep an eye on our Instagram because we're going to try to do a YouTube live on March. Humzah, what day is NFL free agency?
Next Tuesday.
So Tuesday we will try to do NFL. We'll try to do a live stream as NFL free agency kind of is underway. I believe free agency ends around 3:00. So Humzah, we will discuss and we'll definitely try to do a YouTube live. I think that will be super exciting for our viewers to kind of keep up with what's happening in the NFL, and we'll kind of go from there. So I'll let Humzah close this out for everyone, and yeah.
Again, we went a little longer than expected today, but again, there's a lot of content, a lot of stuff to go over. Again, we appreciate all the support, and we will be posting more consistently. Stay tuned for next week, and see you guys soon.
Thanks, guys.